This presentation is going to cover Adolf Hitler and the Holocaust, primarily focusing on the toxic triangle. This theory is going to be used to explain the events leading up to this genocide. Adolf Hitler is notoriously known for the control he took over the German people during the early 1900s. The Holocaust was a series of events that took place over many years. It started simply by separating the Jews and the Germans, who were, up until then, integrated together as one society. Hitler's ideology of a pure German race spread throughout the country, manifesting rapidly into hatred and fear of the Jews. Discrimination against the Jews had been going on for centuries, starting with the biblical crucifixion of Jesus, who was a Jew himself. Christians, who originated from the Jewish religion, had quickly turned against the Jews and blamed them for the crucifixion. During World War I, after Germany fell, the Germans were quick to blame their defeat on the Jews and claimed that Germany was betrayed by the Jews during the war. This history of animosity towards the Jews played a part in making it easier for German society to believe that all Jews were liars and scum. This narrative quickly snowballed into a horrific persecution and an attempt to rid Germany of the Jews. A destructive leader is defined as a person in position of power who repeatedly engages in behavior that violates the goals, tasks, rights, or well-being of others. The first aspect of a destructive leader in this presentation are negative life themes. It's hard to draw a solid conclusion about Hitler's childhood and home life, considering that most of the information comes from a dramatized version written by Hitler himself. Although people draw conclusions about his home life, one important thing to keep in mind is that Hitler had many documents destroyed that pertain to his childhood. Hitler's father was described as being abusive towards his children, while Hitler's mother, on the other hand, was depicted as a source of light and goodness in Hitler's life. However, this narrative could have easily been exaggerated by Hitler to gain sympathy from the German people by suggesting Hitler had this incredible ability to overcome a tragic, abusive childhood. As Hitler grew older, he struggled in school and was described by his teachers as being lazy. Hitler would go on to apply to a university only to be denied entry twice, although Hitler would later say that he was accepted. Hitler also showed signs of being very charismatic. Whether it was genuine or forced, he used that to his advantage, especially when it came to influencing the people he viewed as assets to further his cause, and especially with women. In a paper that was published in 2020, Hitler is described as having a lively appreciation for women as political influences. Their applause and enthusiasm would help ensure a good reception to his speeches. Hitler's followers would describe him in an almost godly-like way. In December 1924, when Hitler was found guilty for treason and sentenced to prison for 5 years, one of his followers stated that she would rather kill her children than have them grow up in a world without Hitler. Another aspect of a destructive leader is personalized power. Hitler's first attempt at politics was disastrous. However, from this failure, he learned that to grow in the political world, he needed influence. Hitler set out to strengthen relationships with the people who would go on to become his followers. Hitler quickly realized that he could utilize his charisma to gain even more power. Hitler would often give moving and inspirational speeches explaining why Germany needed to be cleansed from the Jews and to come together as a pure race. A paper published in 2009 stated that Hitler's speeches were relayed all over German radio stations and through loudspeakers in the streets, at workplaces, and wherever people were likely to congregate, so that hardly anyone was able to escape their impact. Another aspect of a destructive leader that seems to fit Hitler is narcissism. Hitler showed many signs of having an inflated ego, and he often attributed other people's work as a reflection of him and his greatness. Hitler was continuously searching for excessive admiration, and in a paper published in 2020, he went as far as to say that his birth was his mother's biggest accomplishment, and that she had given the German people a great son. The last aspect of a destructive leader is having an ideology of hate. Hitler had a goal for completely eliminating the Jews by whatever means necessary. Hitler painted the Jews as a threat to German society, and he repeatedly blamed the Jews for Germany's defeat during the First World War. And the Jews were not the only people that were affected by this ideology, because it also extended to individuals who had physical or mental disabilities, because they were considered a threat. A conductive environment is providing the right conditions for something to happen, whether that be bad or good. In this case, one of the biggest aspects of creating a conductive environment for a destructive leadership is instability. During World War I, Germany had borrowed money from other countries to finance their part in the war. Germany was hit hard by the Depression. Businesses everywhere started to fail, banks had to close, and unemployment reached an all-time high. Germany was split up into a dozen or so major political parties, with each party having a different agenda. However, none of them seemed quite up to the task of rebuilding after the war. Hitler saw this as a golden opportunity. With all of Germany seemingly at its lowest point, they looked to Hitler for some semblance of hope, for an answer. The Jews quickly became the German scapegoat for this decline in society and the economy. Hitler believed the Jews and their rights needed to be restricted, playing on the belief that they were the ones who were responsible for the economic problems Germany was facing. The Jews were also seen as a perceived threat to German resources. Considering the fact Germany had taken a big economic hit, the Jews were portrayed as a threat to the Germans' livelihoods. They were seen as thieves who were taking jobs and were soon prevented from having any businesses. With the paranoia of a perceived threat hanging over Germany, accompanied by the lack of checks and balances within the government due to the lost war and economic decline, Hitler saw his chance to take control by promising to end the economic crisis. One of the most important parts of the toxic triangle theory are the susceptible followers. Without followers, there can be no leader. All followers hold some of the responsibility, whether they be active participants or simply bystanders, and there were plenty of both during the Holocaust. The most common during this time were bystanders. Whether it was indifference that stopped people from helping or fear, many people just stood by and watched Jews lose all of their basic human rights. Many Germans profited from the mistreatment of Jews. Germans gained property and businesses after Jews were evicted, and other Germans would simply refrain from getting involved out of fear that the Nazis would give them the same treatment as the Jews. Propaganda is defined as information designed to shape public opinion. Many propaganda tactics were used during the Holocaust. The simple act of repetition alone did a lot of damage. The more people hear false information, the more likely they are to believe it. Hitler's goal for spreading propaganda was to truly convince the Germans that the Jews needed and deserved to be harmed, with the end goal being to eventually end their existence. A paper published in 2013 stated that expression of the combination of anger, contempt, and disgust may play important and unrecognizable role in understanding aggression and violence. So, portraying the Jews as different types of threats would elicit these fears in the German population. Jews were described as being a resource threat, triggering the emotion of anger. They were described as stealing jobs and ruining the livelihood of Germans. Jews were also portrayed as a moral threat, triggering the emotion of disgust. The Germans considered the Jews to be immoral because they betrayed Germany during World War I. And because there was this preconceived idea that the Jews had betrayed Germany in World War I, the main argument was that Jews had it out for Germany first, and everything that happened to the Jews happened purely for self-preservation. A paper that was published in 2005 said that the basic Nazi argument was that exterminating Jews was a necessary defensive measure because Jews were determined to destroy Germany first. In conclusion, the toxic triangle theory creates a nice baseline for developing a destructive leader model. However, only having 3 main categories is a very narrow range. This leaves very little room for this model to generalize to multiple destructive leaders. However, with a better and more in-depth, inclusive model, a destructive leadership profile would be able to help prevent things like the Holocaust from happening again.